Hello and welcome to the Unleash podcast brought to you by Embrace the Power, Unleash Your Potential, Make Your Impact. I'm your host, Amy Lee Miller, and we have a great guest on the show today. I'm super excited to welcome Doctor of Chiropractic Medicine and lots of other things too. It sounds like we're going to get into a great conversation today. Brian, thank you so much for coming to the show today. Welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Very honored.
I'm honored to have you. I'm all about nutrition, physical fitness, mental health, and wellness. So I know you've got a lot of knowledge there and are continuing to grow and expand your career, but all in that space. So excited to dive into a great conversation with you. I did want to give, before we get started, just a quick shout out to one of our show affiliates, Planetary Design. This is your one-stop shop for all of your indoor and outdoor coffee, brewing, and storage needs. So we have the link to the website below. Head on over there, planetarydesign.com, and use the promo link 1886. So, all right. Well, excited to dive in here. Welcome again to just share a little bit of background before I let you share what you're currently working on. So you're a doctor of chiropractic medicine. You practiced for 20 years. Sounds like you're very passionate about not only the body and physical fitness and nutrition, but also mental health and wellness. So it sounds like now you are continuing to evolve your career to help folks achieve better balance across all areas of health and wellness. Share with us a little bit about your current focus and what you're currently working on.
Well, thank you for that intro, and I think it does warrant just a tiny bit of background. You know, I'm the youngest of three brothers, and to get attention in my family, it was education and athletics. So I excelled in both of those, and just really drove very, very hard my entire life to be able to, get approval from the people that I love the most, right? So I focused in school. I got a degree in kinesiology, and I was always hyperactive, ADHD. I don't know if I had the official diagnosis, but I was. So sports were always, something that I took a lot of interest in, and then just sports performance. So I studied kinesiology, exercise science, and then had some injuries, got into, had some back injuries and neck injuries that I got helped with chiropractic, and just got really interested in, the whole way the system and the body mechanics work. So went to chiropractic school. Fast forward 20 years of practice, 10 years like hardcore clinical practice, myself hands-on, and then another 10 years of running an integrated practice where we did chiropractic, physical therapy, acupuncture, regenerative medicine. So I've had a lot of experience in, treating patients, managing staff, hiring, firing. And I know you can do, I wish I would have met you years ago in your skill set. Cause that's
with recruiting.
It's one of the biggest challenges in running a business and
absolutely,
understanding, what people's strong suits are, what causes them to shut down, what causes them to burn out. So I've reached several points in my life where I hit severe burnout and didn't recognize it. And I think that's what created a very keen interest for myself to understand me. One, I've always been just focused on self-awareness to become more aware of how I can be better at what I'm doing. And as I evolved and grew, and as a parent, as a manager, as a leader, I was looking at how was I doing as a manager in my business or a leader in my business. So that self-awareness, but then I reached levels of burnout and I wasn't even aware. I shut down. I put my head in the sand. Yeah.
How is that? So I love that you mentioned awareness. That's awareness is the first step in creating change. So I always promote that. I talk about that a lot. And I think just the knowledge of the fact that awareness is the first step in creating change can really help take some pressure off when you realize that you would like to create a change. But as somebody who is very self-aware, how did you not notice? What were the symptoms of burnout for you, and how did you not notice them right away?
There's so many. It's funny because it's like I can see them clearly in hindsight, right? As they say,
Sure.
like hindsight is 2020, right? So I can see
Absolutely.
where for me it's shiny objects. What am I distracted by? Whether it's like what's going to take me away from what I really need to dig into and be mature and take responsibility for. When you run a business, and if it's not if it's a for-profit business, the idea is profit and
Mhm.
to pay attention. My strong suit is people. you know, Even stronger than like biomechanics and movement, people, exchange, relationships, that kind of stuff. And I tended to shy away from things like, the all important bookkeeping and the finances, P&Ls, things like that,
Mhm.
where yes, it's crucial to running a business. And I would hire people from the outside to like help me with that versus like taking the maturity and responsibility to really just own it and figure that part out. So I think, those were some of the signs where I wasn't paying attention to profit. But also like when I find myself looking for what's better than what I'm doing right now versus sitting still
Mhm.
and quieting down. And there's a lot of practices we can talk about to get to that point, but quieting my energy down and recognizing those things. Now, there's physical symptoms like heart palpitations or feeling anxiety, and there's a lot of work around all of that. But
Mhm.
I would say that's a generalization.
Okay.
Um, I'm a big, in the way that I coach people and work with people, I get into are you familiar with the polyvagal theory and how that works?
No, tell us. I'd love to hear.
Goodness. Okay. So polyvagal theory was the research was, I guess it was created or found by Stephen Porges, is a researcher in, I guess, emotion and basically the vagus nerve is cranial nerve 10, comes out of the skull, feeds all the organs. About
Mhm.
80% of it gives you feedback to your brain as to what's going on inside the body. And the concept is called interoception. Like
Okay.
what's going on under my skin. One example that we'll all know is like when you have to go to the bathroom, right?
Mhm.
And how often do you hold it in? Right? Instead of just like going when you got out of the bathroom, I'm focused more. I got to get the job done. I got to work. I got to get my paper done. I got to get this report done. I got to finish
Right.
this
Uh-huh.
chapter. Right. And instead just go to the bathroom. Right. So I've,
When it's uncomfortable enough, just like this can be related to so many different areas of our lives, but when we get uncomfortable enough, and I think I actually wrote about that in one of my books, it's just like, when you have to go to the bathroom, you ignore it, you keep moving forward. It's a little bit of discomfort. You ignore it, you keep moving forward until the discomfort gets big enough, and then you go to the bathroom.
right. Right. But and it's the same analogy, like for burnout, right? Like how
Yep.
uncomfortable do we need to get? And I don't think burnout needs to be a badge of courage anymore.
Mhm.
Maybe that was generations before us, but there's ways that we
Right.
can be just as productive. And I'm not saying we all need to just sit in a field and meditate, but like I'm saying, yes, like I'm a conscious capitalist. Like I believe in capitalism, but I believe in being conscious around how I'm delivering and creating profit in my
Mhm.
businesses. So
Mhm.
um polyvagal theory, basically, like when we first learned about the vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10, wanderer, goes everywhere, feeds information up to the brain for the most part. We broke it down into like fight or flight or regenerate and rest, right? You've heard of those terms, but there's actually
Yes.
one that's the oldest portion of the system is called the dorsal vagal system, which is your freeze, which means you go numb and you shut down. For
Uh-huh.
me, I like the analogy like I put my head in the sand like an ostrich.
Yes, I know that
And
analogy. I use it
yeah,
with a key person in my life who does that.
right. And
Rather than
it's
look at the problem, and then it just gets bigger and bigger, and it's like sand piling on top of your back, and then you can
But
erupt, in one way or another.
and everyone else around you can see it, especially the
Yeah.
people that are closest to you, the people that you're willing to keep in your circle, that are willing to call you out on your stuff.
Mhm.
And so what's become very important for me in my own practices is paying attention to those different states. So you get your sympathetic state, which is your fight or flight, your
Mhm.
ventral state, which is social engagement. What is it like to be socially engaged? And all the other cranial nerves involved with that is really cool. Like, and so I've taken everything that I know and use from the body. I've studied anatomy. I've moved bodies, touch bodies, stretch them, pull them, prod them. But now I'm taking this like from an emotional perspective. Like, how does it play out in your body? And then how can you take that the other direction and use that to be a better performer. So that's what I meant in my bio. It says embodied performance.
I was going to ask you about
I
that.
made that up. I made it
I
up.
love it. I love
So
that. It's
thank
a
you.
great
Thank
term,
you.
and I have that in my notes to ask you about. You
Okay,
mentioned
cool.
embodied performance. So I wanted to gain a better understanding of yeah, what that means to you and what that means to us as individuals, and then how do you help your clients attain that in embodied performance training, or what the level of what would be ideal or optimal embodied performance.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll coin this. I'm going to coin this term right here. So it's just cool. We figured,
Coin
thank
it.
you.
It's yours.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So it's really taking into account, not necessarily, I'm not going to say just like your emotions, right? Not like sadness or overwhelm, things like that, but they're important. But what are the physical signs, and how do you become aware of those physical signs so that you don't have to get to that point where
Hmm.
we're working up until the point where we're almost peeing in our pants, right? So
Hmm.
I'm pulling back that analogy, like, why
Right.
wait that long?
Yeah.
Start paying attention. When you learn what anxiety feels like in your body, you can then dig deeper into that and say, okay, what's causing it? Not just get rid of it,
Hmm.
right? Like, why am I anxious? Is there a boundary that's being crossed? Am I
Yep.
crossing my own boundary, or
Hmm.
am I just having, like, I give speeches and talk on stage all the time. I get butterflies and nervous every single time. If it's 2 people or
Hmm.
200 or 2,000, it doesn't matter.
That's
I'm
great. It means
still,
you have
yeah,
some stake in the game.
always, every single time, because I want to, it's not just, and I find, and even like my teachers have said, like the fear really comes from when you're focusing on yourself, right?
Hmm.
But like, if I'm just focused on what can I give to the audience, like that's a challenge for me also. Like, okay, I'm feeling that anxiety. For me, I start feeling my chest crumble or my chest cave in, like I feel
Hmm.
tightness in my heart. I also
Hmm.
can feel my body sweating, right? So I know, like, right now I'm sweating because I'm a little bit nervous, and this is our
Uh-huh.
first time like chatting here at this level. So I get used to those experiences so that I then can say, okay, take a break, make more eye contact,
Hmm.
slow down, change my voice, lower my tone, um,
Take a deep
lean
breath.
lean in, take a breath.
Uh-huh.
All of these things are what I'm putting in that basket of embodied performance. So, it's like, how do I pay attention to what's happening interoceptively?
Hmm.
Exteroception is like what's coming from the outside. Interoception is like, what can I feel on the inside? And then how do I make shifts to perform better based on what I learned from that feedback?
That is so interesting. And I want to touch on so many different things that you said there that I want to come back to. One is that you've mentioned a couple times is emotion, but then also awareness again. But you're talking now about awareness and in the symptoms of your body. How's your body feeling? How's your body reacting? And just by becoming, because oftentimes we will ignore our symptoms of discomfort. Something is frustrating us, something is bothering us. So for me, if I'm working with somebody on their career direction, and I notice from my own experience, maybe we stay in the same situation, be it job, relationship, whatever, for years and years and years. And like an ostrich, that pile of sand, that discomfort grows bigger and bigger and bigger. But it doesn't have to, because once we start to pay attention. And I love how you're bringing elements of the body into it, and how your physical symptoms that can help individuals to become more aware of how they're feeling, so that they can take action and to create change sooner. So I think
So,
that's part of what you're
yes,
teaching.
totally. And that was an awesome summary. So I'm gonna steal that too.
Take it.
Well, it's also, you talked about like some holdbacks, like people have career blockages, right? Not moving
Hmm.
forward. So I want to dive a little deeper into where you can feel that in your body. So let's say
Okay, that's
your
great. I would love that.
your let's just give whatever example, someone like looking for a job that they've, or in a relationship that they've never been heard, right? They feel like their voice doesn't matter. So, from that perspective, I'm going to actually look into the throat and the neck and the
Okay.
jaw and
Uh-huh.
say, like, okay, which areas of my body have I been restricting myself from engaging socially? So your sternocleidomastoid muscle, your trapezius muscle, if you've
Mhm.
gone to the gym at all. So if I turn my head, right, you see that big fat muscle right there? Those are
Mhm.
controlled by one of the cranial nerves, one of the most important nerves that create social engagement. So we are a social species. If we weren't, we
Yeah.
wouldn't procreate. Nothing would happen. We'd still be, solo in a cave, right?
We need
And
connection. Absolutely.
correct,
Not
correct.
with everybody, but with some people, it is a need. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. And it's, safety becomes the most important part, right? Like if
Hmm.
you don't feel safe on the inside, we could go into the whole dating conversation too, but we'll save that for a different podcast. But
Okay.
because I don't think
Yeah,
men
we'll
pay
have you
attention.
back.
Men don't pay attention to how unsafe they can make women feel. I
Yeah.
know this might be tangential, but so pull me back. All right, we're talking about neck muscles, face muscles, eye muscles, things like that. It's not just about what I'm doing physically, right? I'm on that computer all day. My eyes get tired, so I need release, and I
Hmm.
need like tension release.
Hmm.
I'm talking all day or I'm speaking, my throat gets sore. But what I want you listeners and you, Amy, to start paying attention to is like, what does my voice do when I'm nervous or scared?
Hmm.
I we shared earlier, you had a stint in medical device sales, as did I,
Hmm.
and mine was 9 months. Yours was a little bit longer,
Uh-huh.
but I was thrusted into the OR. Right, I've dissected bodies. I've worked on thousands, tens of thousands of bodies, but I've never been in an OR. And if you don't pay attention to sterility techniques and all those things, like you can injure and damage, and people get really hurt. So
Hmm.
when you're with a good doctor, they really pay attention to what the hell is going on there, and they command the room. Now, as a medical device rep, I was required to like hand equipment to people and talk to them, tell them where to place it. I
Hmm.
started noticing, because I was very new and I wasn't confident in myself. Everyone was like, "What? What'd you say?" Every time I spoke, "What'd you say?" And like obviously, like you can hear my voice. I talk fast. I can
Uh-huh.
pronounce. I've spoken in front of thousands of people. In the OR, I got quiet.
So was that telling you that you were not comfortable in that arena? And that's
Exactly.
a
And I had to practice. And I went to my manager. I was like, "Dude, we got to practice. I got to get in the OR," because he was really comfortable in the OR. He's been there for like 5, 6 years. I was like, I got to get to a place where I know this stuff backwards and forwards so that I can speak loudly. But over a period of time, what happens? Like if my voice is quieted like that,
Mhm.
let's say I'm in a relationship where I'm not allowed to voice my opinion to my boss, and I'm in like an abusive work employer-employee relationship.
Mhm.
And what happens, that's like traumatizing to the body. So
Okay.
not paying attention. So through this embodied performance approach, it's like start paying attention to these areas of the body, whether it's different um, avenues of like massage therapy or your own movement. And I have a bunch of material on how to work on these areas by yourself so that
Okay.
you can start paying attention to that, and then, improving your performance in whatever areas of your life you want to put it.
That is so interesting. And that was kind of brings me back to a question that I wanted to ask you because to me, it sounds like, and I'm sure to a lot of people, what you're doing makes a lot of sense, bringing together all areas of health and wellness. So physical fitness, mental health and wellness, and emotional nutrition as well. But I was curious to learn more about how what you're doing is different because it sounds like they're very unique as well. So you are it sounds like, yeah, absolutely. What your approach is unique. So you are helping individuals I first identify the areas in their body that are maybe experiencing some tension, but also digging deeper to create a greater awareness around why that is. But then also here's a solution. Is that right?
Well, I would say I focus first on like what the issue at hand is, right? There's usually like a mental thought or issue, something repetitive that comes in, whether it's you're unhappy with your work relationship, you're unhappy with your romantic relationship, or, I want to propel my career in this certain direction. But how do you become more aware and embodied so that you recognize these signs that are stopping you from being at your optimum level? Then you
Hmm.
tie in, what are you doing for physical fitness? What are you doing for nutrition? And are the foods you're eating causing you inflammation, which can lead to pain, and they can slow things down, especially if you're inflamed in your brain on a consistent basis. That's going to completely lead to brain fog. So what are you doing to take down that inflammatory response? And then, as far as memory and focus, like what are you doing with your brain health? Not just mental performance, like that's using the anatomy, but brain health, right? Your brain is made mostly of fat. So are you giving yourself the proper nutrition to feed your brain the raw
Oh,
materials to recreate itself, right?
that's
So
interesting. I didn't know
yeah.
the brain was mostly made of fat.
Yes. Yep. And
So we have
specifically
to
like
eat some fat to feed our brain.
correct, correct. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I supplement with is omega-3 fatty acids, because that's what, that synapses. And when they studied Einstein's brain, it wasn't that it was a bigger brain. He had way more synapses, so interconnectedness
Hmm.
of his neurons. Those synapses are bathed in omega-3 fatty acids. So I'm like, all right, I gotta make my brain smarter as I get older. So I've that's the one I want to keep it all healthy.
Hmm.
My goal is to just I want to surf and ski till I die. That's
Hmm.
my goal, and just be around for grandkids if they arrive ever. I got a while for that, long time for
Yeah.
that. But that's my own purpose.
Before we get away from the brain thing, so we can take supplements, but what kind of foods can we eat for our brain health?
Things like, and again, this is, you have to look at, everyone has biochemical individuality. Like some people react to things differently.
Hmm.
So you just, I think just an important factor before I tell you what foods to eat, I think
Hmm.
also that interoceptive awareness. How are you reacting to foods? Right? Because some
Yes.
people will eat
Yep.
foods and they get bloated.
Hmm.
I was talking to a woman today and she said, when I eat avocados and when I eat um, tomatoes. Like I feel myself get bloated. I put weight on my chest, I put it on my stomach, I put it on my legs.
Hmm.
That's different for men and women. So I think that awareness of how you're responding emotionally, physically, physiologically to food. If you're like, my stomach hurts every time I eat pasta, but I'm going to keep eating pasta because I
Yeah.
like how it
Stop
feels.
eating
Yeah,
pasta.
yeah, just stop. Right?
Yeah.
It's easier said than done, but if you want to stop smoking, just don't smoke. And it's a lot. That's a tough one too. But like, I mean, there is some truth to it. So, things like, um, not farm raised fish, but oh my God, like
Wild caught fresh
yeah,
fish.
sorry,
Hmm.
wild caught salmon and
Yeah.
sardines and
Okay.
walnuts, avocados. Um, let's see what else is a good. I consistently eat coconut. Like I just buy raw cut up coconut.
Hmm.
Um, and as far as inflammation is concerned, papaya, pineapple, also Heal and Soothe, the supplement that I work with, and
Okay.
because that's another one of my gigs. So it's
Uh-huh.
I promote that supplement and all the line of those supplements that we promote because it's taking inflammation down in the body and in the brain.
Hmm. I love that. So many other questions I want to ask. I'm going to try to remember them to come back to, but I want to touch
Sure.
real quick a little bit more on inflammation because that's something that, and just being aware of how your body feels when you eat certain foods. I have been working out since I was 12. So that's when I started running. So a long time. But for years, I struggled to get maybe an additional 10, 15, 20 pounds off and just had a lot of issues with inflammation. But when I started to read and research more, I learned, oh, these kinds of, and just, pay more attention. These kinds of foods don't feel good in my body. So I stopped eating them. And after eliminating certain foods, 10 pounds dropped, just like that. So that's one, easy thing that I think people can do is just really, again, it goes back to awareness. You don't have to settle for something that you're not happy with. You just pay more attention, get curious about, okay, well, why am I feeling this way? So I love that, you gave advice for specific foods that we can eat, but also how different people are going to absorb and react to different foods differently. So it's all about awareness and getting to know yourself better.
I think one other quick tip is quality of food, right? Because we get our body gets satiated or we get full, the sensation of fullness based on nutrient density, and a
Hmm.
lot of processed foods. So the foods that you get in the inside aisles, not on the periphery, right?
Okay.
So
Uh-huh.
so so if there's any quick tips, just shop on the periphery, right?
Oh, love that. Okay.
You got eggs, meat, vegetables, and
Yep.
fruits, right?
Okay.
Those are your
Hmm.
safer foods than anything that's processed. Because and like low quality nutritional foods, you have to eat a lot more. So your calorie consumption is much higher when the
Hmm.
nutrient density is lower. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? So the
absolutely. Because then
lower
you're not going to
quality
feel
food,
satisfied and then you want
correct,
more.
correct,
I'm not
correct.
a big dessert eater and I try not to eat sugar too much, but I notice I want it when I'm not satisfied with my meal.
With your meal,
So,
yeah, but so it's funny because like I could eat a grass-fed steak or I can eat regular steak, and I definitely feel the difference. Now, maybe that's
oh,
my
interesting.
mind and my training, or it definitely it makes a difference in how I digest it and excrete it. Also,
Uh-huh.
that's like I can feel the difference. Maybe I'm just more sensitive, and those are
and more aware. And I think
yeah,
that what I've
yeah,
noticed is the cleaner I eat, the bigger the disruption is when you eat something that your body doesn't like. It's not
yeah.
going to tolerate it. So then it just becomes easier to choose a healthy lifestyle, especially dietary wise, because it's just not even worth it.
Well, it's funny, and
Mm.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I know we may run out of time. We could do this. We could talk about this. I love this stuff, but we talked about using your voice and expressing yourself, right? And some people are like, I don't want to be annoying at a restaurant. I'm like, you're only annoying if you're being a dick, right? Sorry if is that okay if I said that? But
It's fine with me. We'll see if
okay.
Mike edits it out.
Oh, all right, cool. But it's true. All right. If you're not being nice, right? You're being mean to someone who's serving you
Oh
because you
yeah.
want to make a change. Like, I don't want the sauce on this, or,
Oh
but
yeah.
but some people I've talked to a lot of people like, I don't want to be a pain in the butt and make these changes when I'm at the restaurant. I'm like, I don't want to feel like crap after I eat.
Exactly. It's not worth
Yeah.
it. We could go into a whole other direction with that. It's when we sacrifice those little things ourselves for the benefit of others. Like if somebody on a first date invites me out for pizza and I don't want to seem difficult, I've gotten past that because if I eat that pizza, I'm not going to feel good for 2 weeks. So no, I
Right.
actually don't
Right.
eat pizza. I don't even want the gluten-free kind. I just don't, no. And so if that's a problem, see you
Then
later.
the answer to that. Yeah.
You're
Date,
not going to be
check,
dealing with me
check,
for the next
please.
2 weeks. I'm
Check,
going to be,
please.
yeah, dealing with me and my stomach. And also just that could be a simple, if somebody does have a challenge expressing themselves a little bit, we don't get what we don't ask for. That could be a good, easy way to practice asking
Yeah.
the server for what you want. Yeah.
Well, and it ties back to what we were talking about, right? So that person who doesn't get what they want because they're living into their fear and afraid to express what's truth for them,
Hmm.
they're going to have more tension in this area of their body.
Okay.
And that's like an immediate clue for those of you listening out there. If you can admit, and you don't have to tell us, but if you're one of those people who have been afraid, and I've been there too, to really voice your opinion, or if you grew up in a household like that, start
Yeah.
watch my videos on Instagram and YouTube, and you'll see ways that you can do
Oh,
self
yeah.
myofascial massage. It's my self promotion there. So, but those are ways that I've
YouTube
got.
up here.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So you can take a look at those, and I've got self myofascial massage for the whole upper head and neck area that you can use. And again, it's really start looking into those things that you may have been restricting yourself behaviorally, like not speaking or yeah.
Uh-huh. I probably am going to give away too much information, but I'm just going to be selfish and ask you a question for my own benefit. But real quick, yeah, I saw the video. I've been doing the
Mhm.
sternocleidomastoid massage there, but I hold a lot of tension, and I think, or I thought, it's just because I'm always on the computer. So I do, when I'm not working, I'm writing, creating content. So I will hold a lot of stress and pressure in my back, upper back. You could apply the more technical term, but what is that? Do I need to pay closer? What do I need to pay closer attention to?
Just I would say, because the upper back is a lot of different muscles. It's your head and neck posture, right? So if you're like
Okay.
this,
Hmm.
right, pay attention to posture.
Hmm.
And I have posture videos on both those things too. So pay attention to posture, getting, working the tension out of those things on your own as well as outside, externally, chiropractic, massage therapy, body work, those things. I like, do you work out also? Do you do strength training?
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. I do
Okay. So,
yoga, running, strength training. Yeah. Hmm.
okay.
I walk
So
a lot.
so I do those also. And in my strength training, like I don't do much strength training that creates like these compressive postures.
Okay.
So I'll do way more back work so
Okay.
that I'm creating endurance. And then with yoga, I'll add more of those movements that are going to
Hmm.
cause me to I surf too. So like that's, I'm getting into that position where I have better posture and I have endurance because it's not just about lifting a heavy weight. It's about holding that over a period of time. And lastly, get out of your
Hmm.
seat.
Hmm.
You got to get up. So I
Yeah.
literally, like over here, I've got a lacrosse ball where I'm rubbing my feet out. I've got a wobble disc where I sit on and I can move around.
Hmm.
So there are a lot of different tools that I'll be coming out with soon also that
Oh,
you'll
exciting.
be able to pick up so that you can actually, combat these things on a daily basis. Cause sitting is not going anywhere. We
Hmm.
got to sit, and we're doing more and more computer work. Like you and I, we're working, from the computer. This is what we do.
Yep.
So we got to figure out, okay, besides like going to yoga classes, which are an hour, right? I'm sitting
Mhm.
here for 6 if I got to get something done, right? If I'm
Yeah.
hyper focused on creating a project or writing or doing whatever, I got to get my body more mobile. And so
Mhm.
there are a lot of different techniques and things you can do. And I think it's more important to get in the habit of doing them for yourself
Mhm.
versus depending on going to the outside source. Yes, when you're injured or damaged or
Mhm.
something happened, you need to get treated and take care of the damage parts of your body, but it's self-care that makes the biggest difference long term.
Absolutely. One of my favorite questions that I encourage everybody to ask themselves each day to start improving their life is how can I invest in myself today? So I love that you're giving folks that reminder there. So you're a professional that folks can come to for help with their body and of course mentally, emotionally, and nutritionally as well. But you're reminding folks and your clients and your listeners to get curious and more aware and seek out the be resourceful, to figure out some solutions that they can do to invest in themselves. One thing I want to touch on before we go, a couple more things if we have time, but you mentioned, and I'm a big believer in this too, but you mentioned personal and professional awakenings, you call them, that help drive you toward in your career direction and to continue evolving and growing your career. And I believe that wholeheartedly whenever, but we have to pay attention, when something is bothering us. If it's significant enough, sometimes that can point us in the right direction for us career wise. But two, we can end up making a huge impact there. So I'd love to hear one or whatever you want to share of your personal or professional awakenings that had a big impact on you.
Uh, let's see.
Whatever you're comfortable sharing. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot there.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I think there's two things that I did, two experiences that I had were the biggest, and they were the biggest personal and professional awakenings. Um, Besides ongoing therapy, I'm going to just put that here that I think that um, I've experienced a lot of really cool therapists and different types of therapy. And like every time I go to a therapist that does a certain technique, I end up like studying that technique because I'm
Hmm.
just a nerd that way. So that's just an interest of mine. And that's helped me become a better coach and better consultant, better just human parent friend
Hmm.
relationship.
That's really
So
great. Sorry, just real quick. That's
yeah.
key for I want our listeners to hear, not just learning, we can take a course, we can read a book, but we can go to a coach, but we have to then or a therapist, but we have to implement what it is that they're teaching us. If we don't implement and put it into practice, we're not going to get the benefit. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
So there's two things that I did experientially, and then it's just the ongoing discipline too. So I did a 10-day silent retreat. It was like a
Wow.
yoga and silent retreat, and that was
Okay.
through the works of Ramana Maharshi of self inquiry. Basically asking myself the question of who am I for 10 days in a row in silence and no eye
Wow.
contact and stuff. So that was pretty intense. And then,
Amazing.
yeah, it was really cool. Um, and then I did a desert fast, like a vision quest. No psychedelics. This was with a group, and these are all my brothers through an organization called Rising Man. And I went to the desert, and they walked me through a my own fast for 4 days and 4 nights with no
Wow.
food.
Oh my.
And but then from there spawned the introduction and the commitment to what's known as men's work. So a place where studying the dynamics within myself as a human for masculine and feminine dynamics to understand that and how that plays a role in our environment, in our relationships, in our
Hmm.
sexuality, and all of that. And then dealing with some of the traumas and having a space that I'm comfortable to talk with other men who are experiencing the same pressures and traumas and stresses and things that I've gone. And it's crazy to realize like, holy crap, these guys have experienced the same thing. And like building the muscle to learn how to be vulnerable enough to express yourself. It's not
Hmm.
necessarily a place to like just come and cry, right? That's not like everyone thinks that men's and I also think that there is a place for men to be and I don't mean to be like sexist or anything because we all have masculine and feminine energies, but like I
Hmm.
identify as a man. I'm in a biological male body, and I identify more so with masculine, but I'm very in touch with my feminine energy. And I like to call it alpha and omega through some other teachers too. So
Hmm.
we could do a whole nother podcast on this, but
Definitely.
those have been profoundly impactful in the way that I parent, in the way that I'm able to listen to myself, in the way that I'm able to be in relationships, in the way that I'm able to manage, way that I'm able to lead, way that I'm able to follow. So those have been two profound things. And then I would say like a daily practice of breath work and
Hmm.
meditation and
So
movement
important. Yep.
and eating clean and really, I'm on a complete sobriety kick right now too. So that's
Good for you.
yeah, it's a new thing for me, like complete sobriety, which is pretty, it's the first time I've ever and we're in, August or July of 2023. So talk to me, a couple months from now, we'll see where I'm at. But the goal is like, okay, there's certain things that I want to just eliminate from my life forever that
Hmm.
don't serve me. They don't serve the evolution of my spirit. They don't serve the growth and aging of my body. So they're just, and they're more addictive behaviors that I'm just not unwilling to face the crap that I'm unwilling to face. So now I just can
Hmm.
face my stuff. So
I love that. That's so good and such a great example for everybody out there. Men, absolutely, but yeah, all of us as well. And so, a couple key things that stand out to me are awareness and introspection. I mean, that's how we can't solve a problem that we don't know is there. So just by becoming more aware of how you're feeling, what's bothering you, and then all of the elements and aspects that you take into account with your practice and with your coaching. Really, really great stuff. If one quick question before we go, I always like to hear lots of great advice that you've already shared. But if somebody wants to embark on the journey to improve an aspect of their health, maybe they're good with their mental health, but they don't work out, or they work out but they're not eating right. It can seem creating change, starting something new can seem pretty daunting. What's a good place to start? Good, simple starting point for somebody that wants to improve an aspect of their health.
that's a hard question.
It is. I was
You gave me
realizing as I
you
asked
gave
it,
me a
I didn't
hard
set you
you
up
gave me
very
a tough
well.
one there. I'm gonna say like drop me an email, right? Because and as we're recording this, like I'm redoing my website, so that's not up. But just you can put my email in there as pariscairo@gmail, and I'm embarrassed that I'm using a Gmail, but eventually it'll switch over. But you can find me on YouTube or Instagram. But where does somebody start? Um, I think just coaching in general, and you're a coach also, it's like you've got to be willing if you're unable to create the discipline to make changes first. Change is, improving what already exists. Transformation is something totally different,
Hmm.
right? And people they're craving transformation, but they're stuck in change, right? They're just like making themselves a little bit better of a version of themselves, which is a great start.
Hmm.
But to transform
There
is
you go.
really it's the discipline.
Hmm.
And if you don't have that discipline yourself and you need to borrow it from the outside, there's so many resources. Now you do have to
Yeah.
be careful though, because everybody nowadays is a coach,
Hmm.
right? And it's like I'm gonna just say like take advice and coaching from people who you can see that they're embodying the difference that you want to make in yourself.
Very
When
good
when you
advice.
watch
Yep.
people from like the FDA tell you about nutrition and they're unwilling to take their shirt off and show you, like one of my mentors is Paul Chek, and those of you who are listening, you can look him up. He's like the grandfather of functional movement and nutrition and spirituality, and he will take his shirt off. The guy's like 65, 70 years old. He's
Oh, I think
shredded.
I know who this guy
Yeah,
is.
and
Yeah, I've seen him.
he's
Yeah,
like, dude,
it looks amazing.
this is my nutrition program. And
Hmm.
he is the most humble. He is not a vain dude. He's like, he lifts heavy things. He eats well. He's into spirituality, and he's like, this is my program. So I kind of follow that lead. Like,
Hmm.
this is, I'm almost 50, so I'm gonna, I want to live another 50 years at least. So, and I don't want to be, I want to be dancing around the fire when I'm 100 and 105, 120. So not like in a home or in a wheelchair.
Yep.
So I've got to
Hmm.
start doing now what I want to look at then. And I didn't see that, 20, 30 years ago. I was doing
Hmm.
crazy shit. Oh, sorry, I cursed again. Um,
Is
but
that even a
that's
curse word
so
anymore? That's
I
okay.
guess, but just, so just be aware, like, don't be aware of the shiny objects. the person that you might be most attracted to as a coach, male or female, that might not be the best person for you. But the person who's going to help you see yourself, and that person who can give you a good reflection. And you also, I think it's important to have objective data too, right? Like if mental health is your issue, like you can go to places like the Amen Clinic, where you're going to get a SPECT scan of your brain. You're going to look inside, outside, or blood work on, if you're going to be doing testosterone or estrogen, like don't just take it. And I also think, like, if you're going to take psychiatric medications, like, see a psychiatrist, not a general practitioner, right? Someone who specializes in mental health and the brain and brain health. Same with movement, like personal trainers, physical therapists, chiropractors, like look at their background. So I'm sorry that wasn't like direct info, but
no, it was great. It would be resourceful, utilize your resources. And also going back, it sounds like to paying attention to your emotions, pay attention to how you feel when you're interacting with professionals. First try to figure things out on your own, pay attention to what you need, utilize your resources, do some research. And then if you are, and try to be, I love what you said, try to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday. And then if you want to create that transformation and you need some help, then, maybe go ahead and get a coach, but pay attention, do some research to make sure that it's the right coach for you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Dr. Brian Paris. Yeah, you have been awesome. So I've got your Instagram here. I'll pop up your YouTube one more time. And for folks who want to reach out to you and stay up to date on what you're working on and maybe connect with you to utilize your services, share with us again your email.
Well, yeah, so it will eventually be, and I don't know when this is posting, but it'll eventually be drbrianparis.com. I will work very fast to get that up and get email, but for now, Paris Chiro, PARISCHIRO @gmail.com. And don't judge me on the tech end. I'm sorry, but it'll turn around pretty quick.
No judgment.
I'm judging myself. Right? I'm beating
That's
myself
because
up, but
you have high expectations for yourself. So very good. You're doing lots of great things. Definitely want to have you back on. We could dig in and have so many more conversations around different aspects of what we talked about. So thank you again so much. And thank you to our listeners. Really appreciate you guys as well. Don't forget to subscribe to Embrace the Power on YouTube. Come back and check us out for more inspirational interviews with Vince Buggs and Mike G and Dr. Jennifer Blaylock. And for those of you on the self-development journey, like myself and Dr. Brian here, I invite you to check out my book, Where's My Mustard? How to Let Go, Attract, and Achieve, A Quest to Self-Empowerment. That's available on Amazon. And until next time, stay curious.